We think in terms of the yogi on the mountain who can levitate. But really what Siddhis mean to all of us is that if we're doing these practices, we're going to experience little miracles in our life because we're going to be more open to them, and our intentions are going to be more initiated within stillness, which is what Samyama cultivates, the ability to think within stillness. And whenever we're operating within stillness, what comes out is always going to be evolutionary. And those are the Siddhis that really matter and that are really very common to anyone who practices, which incidentally, you asked before about the experiment of AYP and if it's working. And I think the answer is a resounding yes, because we have many, many people who are using these practices now, and a lot of these things that we've been talking about are being verified not just by me, but by hundreds and perhaps even thousands of people out there who are using the lessons. So we're not talking theory here. We're talking practices and actual results.
And experiential.
Absolutely.
Yes.
If there was not results, I would not be interested in doing this.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that also there's a warning, I think, that should come with Siddhis, and that is that it can be a big distraction too from what you're actually going toward.
That's true of any kind of experiences that can come up with yoga. It can come up with meditation, it can come up with Tantra, it can come up with spinal breathing, and it can come up with Samyama. Oddly enough, Samyama, even though it's about producing so-called miracles and powers, it's actually the least likely to be distracting. Because if you're doing Samyama correctly, and you're carrying that out into your everyday life, you are letting go. And letting go is really the essence of avoiding distraction. And it's the basic instruction in deep meditation, which we talked about several interviews ago, where you're picking up the mantra and thoughts come or some energy experience comes, and you just acknowledge that and then easily go back to the mantra. So it's the same thing with all yoga practices. And in fact, I often say favor the practice over the experience, or favor the practice over the scenery. Because that is really the key. Experiences do not advance us spiritually. Practices do. So the same thing applies to Samyama.
Now, what about someone like Sai Baba and his Siddhis of manifestation? Would you say he has veered off of his path?
Well, there have been many teachers throughout history, including Jesus, who have used those kinds of displays of powers to attract people to something deeper. So I would not say that Sai Baba or Jesus, for that matter, were leading people astray. I would just say that they had those abilities, and they used those abilities to attract people to something deeper. And if you look into the teachings of Sai Baba and obviously Christianity, there's a very deep teaching. There are very deep teachings there, and that is what those teachers were about and are about. So we all use what abilities we have to pass on whatever good that we can, and so that's how I would characterize Sai Baba and Jesus, who are, are sort of on the same level in terms of miracles.
Yes. All right, so let's look at Samyama and how it purifies our nervous system.
How it purifies our nervous system?
Yes.
It does it in a similar way as deep meditation, in that you're working with inner silence, which by its very presence indicates some level of purification in the nervous system. As the nervous system becomes purified, we experience more inner silence. The way Samyama advances that process, as I mentioned earlier, is you begin to move that silence out through the nervous system. And there are a number of different ways we use Samyama. We have a core Samyama practice that we do right after deep meditation, which has a series of 9 sutras which cover a number of different directions that stillness can flow in the nervous system. And in doing that procedure twice a day after meditation, the core Samyama procedure with the 9 sutras, then you're purifying your nervous system in a much more accelerated manner than just meditation alone. So the two practices go together like that.
I just want to let our audience know that sutras are words that actually hold a beautiful frequency. That's
right.
Yes, there's 9 sutras.
That's right. The first sutra in the core Samyama sitting is the word love. So it's nothing esoteric or weird or strange about it. It's the word love. And the second sutra is radiance. And the third sutra is unity. And the fourth sutra is health. And then strength. And then abundance. And then wisdom. Inner sensuality. And then the last sutra is a little tricky. It's akasha, lightness of air, which is essentially recognizing the body as empty space and seeing it as light, being lightness. So that those 9 sutras that I just mentioned cover a full range of qualities, we could say, that we'd like to develop. And the list is not like ironclad and perfect for all time. It's a list that I've found that works well and is fairly concise. In the Samyama book, in the appendix, there are 30 sutras included from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which the reader can look at and even do research with, assuming they're stable in their core Samyama practice. It's always recommended to be stable in your practice first before you start, switching things around.
Yes. Now, did these 9 sutras come from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras? And who made these words up?
Yes, they do, but there are some modifications that I took the liberty of including to make them simpler and things that I found to be more effective in my practice over the years. And as mentioned before, AYP is a sharing of what I've been doing for the last 35 years or so.
Yes.
And others are using these sutras and finding them also to be quite effective. But nothing's cast in concrete.
Yes.
So that's why I included the appendix. And there are also additional practices in the Samyama book using the Samyama technique, which, by the way, we haven't even discussed yet.
No, we're holding it back. We're making our audience wait.
Yeah. But shall I?
Sure.
Yeah. The technique of Samyama is you pick up a sutra, or the word, if you will. And, let's start with love, which is the first sutra in the series of 9 sutras for core practice. You finish your meditation, okay, you're sitting there with some stillness, relax, for a minute or so. And then you just very quietly pick up the word love. And it doesn't have to be enunciated extremely clearly. You pick it up wherever you are in your stillness. And that could be quite fuzzy, actually. So you pick up the word love, and then you just let go for about 15 seconds. And then after 15 seconds or so, you pick it up a second time, love. And then 15 seconds or so, and then you go to the next sutra. We do 2 repetitions of each sutra in the core Samyama practice in AYP. And you pick up each one twice like that with a 15-second release in stillness. And it takes all of about 5 or 10 minutes to go through the whole list. We don't use a clock to do that. It's very intuitive, and with a little practice, you'd be amazed how you can keep that 15-second interval.
When you talk about letting go of these sutras, allowing these words to just float off of our tongue and out into consciousness, how does this letting go compare with surrendering?